Hi everyone, how are you doing? I come to you with a quick off-the-cuff chat video. I realize I haven't done a formal written essay kind of video in a long time now, just because I have not had the time to sit down and draft and write a formal piece like that. They take a while to do, so that's why that's not happening. And it occurred to me that today is September 1st. That means yesterday was August 31st. I know, right? The reason that I'm saying it is that on August 31st of 1980, Karen Carpenter got married at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I talked a lot about the Carpenters recently on the channel, so when that date came along, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. That's right, on this day. I think the most iconic part of that wedding was her hat. If you've ever seen her wedding or just the pictures of it, like when she's in the ceremony itself, they took the brim of her hat off for a lot of the photography after the ceremony, but during the ceremony it was a headpiece and this huge brim for a hat around, and there was a big amazing veil just over top, and the hat kind of provided a big halo effect. It was really, really pretty. Very 1980 to have a hat that size. It was big. I saw a show once where Tom Bettis, their song lyricist, said the wedding was as big as her hat. I love him. He's great. John Bettis. He's a fun guy. He seems like a fun guy. Anyway, so that happened. Of course, that story is kind of sad because she ended up marrying somebody who only really wanted her money and didn't really care about her. And some people would argue in the community that that was a huge contributing factor to her death, because she did become much more frail after that. So it's an unfortunate aspect of things. The other thing that happened on August 31st in 1997 is Princess Diana was in the car accident in Paris, and eventually they announced that she had died. And I remember that really, really well because I was 16 and I was watching TV with my mom and sister. We were watching, of all things, the drag performer, Dame Edna. There was this weird show on I guess it was the BBC, where Dame Edna was doing this neighborhood watch, and she would have people from her audience. Somehow they got subjected to these home searches by people on the show. It was all agreed to in advance. It wasn't nefarious or anything, but it was just very strange because they would go through people's drawers and like show off their underwear on the TV. Like it was a strange show to be watching. It was not normal for us to watch such a thing. So it's weird that we were watching it that night, and this huge sort of moment in popular culture, world history, one could argue, happened. It's one of those things I remembered asking both my parents, like, is this one of those moments where, you know, we'll just like remember it forever and ever? And because they both were talking about how they each remembered when JFK was assassinated. They remembered when RFK was assassinated. They remembered the moon landing. They remembered, because they're from that generation, of that age. So they remembered all of these kinds of events really, really well. And I remembered thinking, I don't have any memories like that. I don't remember when Elvis died. That all happened before me. So, and we didn't really seem to have any serious moments like that I was really aware of. Of course, there were. The Berlin Wall in 1989. important moment. But anyways, we watched the funeral, which was an interesting experience in our house too, because my parents were, I mean, it makes total sense that they are not married anymore, because they were very different people. My dad came from, a traditional Italian immigrant family. They were very much against the monarchy, thought it was the worst thing ever and should be abolished, and shame on people for allowing this to continue going on. It was like a common joke. All you had to do was say, "the Queen," in front of my grandfather, and he would be off on a tirade about the Queen and the monarchy and how it's awful. And it was kind of a family joke. But on my mother's side, she does have British heritage, and my mom was very much fond of the royal family. I don't see why she wouldn't still be. She got up in 1981. I had just been born, and she got up in the middle of the night to watch Charles and Diana get married, because it was important enough to her to do that, because back then you couldn't record the show and watch it later. We didn't have VCRs at home yet, so that's why she woke up in the middle of the night to watch this thing. So that was an interesting experience, because we watched the funeral, because my God, that thing played. They played the funeral a lot. I remember it was just constantly on TV, constantly. And I think that was probably the very first sort of moment like that for me in my lifetime, where I was old enough to remember it and be a participant in the experience. And considering what we have going on today, I find it worthy to remark upon, shall we say. They are banning books in Edmonton, which bothers me to no end, because I used to live there. I grew up there. And it's unfortunate to see the place where I spent my formative early childhood kind of becoming more and more and more difficult to reconcile with, I guess. I don't know how else to put that. But anyway, I have this terrible problem. It's not a we thing, it's a me thing. I have this terrible problem of having lots of ideas and things to say, but at the same time feeling like I shouldn't say them, because I don't like to alienate people, and I don't like to come off as though I know everything and I have all the answers and I'm sanctimonious about anything like that. Politics, geopolitics, local politics, economics, anything like that, because I know that I don't know enough. But I just find it really sad that the city where, I spent, 8 years of my life, and it was where my sister was born, it's a shame to see it sort of descending into madness. There is a reason why we often refer to Alberta. Edmonton is in Alberta, in case you didn't know that off the top of your head. Sorry. It's a shame that it's really not that big of a leap for Canadians to call Alberta itself basically the Texas of Canada, because they are a conservative stronghold. And considering what has been going on with conservatism in the US, it has filtered up here, and it's dangerous, and I don't like it. I don't like hearing about how The Handmaid's Tale is not available to read in schools anymore. They're taking 1984 out of libraries. I don't know the entire list, but it's a long one. And they're taking these books out, and it's like, how do we expect people to be citizens of the world with such tactics? I don't know. I think that's the idea, though. It's that people are being forced to not be citizens of the world. They are being forced to stay corseted and small and knowing their place. It's like that. That's how it feels to me, and I hate it. I really hate it. Because the reason we live in the West is because there is freedom here. We're allowed to read things, and we're allowed to think things, and we're allowed to say things. That's the kind of cachet of it. That's why, you know, my grandparents came to this country to begin with, and many, 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 many others. So to see this sort of erosion happening here is, well, deeply disconcerting, shall we say. As someone who went to school and, you know, got my post-secondary degree in creative writing, but also, you know, in that process of creative writing, you also just learn about writing and you learn about reading, right? It makes sense. Kind of like how August 31st is the day before September 1st. It's obvious. But to see communication becoming more and more difficult is distressing to me. And it feels like if I could travel back there, it would be very interesting, and I wonder how long it would last before I like started arguing with people about how insane they are. That's something I fear. But anyways, it was nice to see ya. Do drop any suggestions or ideas you might have about something that I should be sort of writing more formally about, because sometimes I think I have a really good idea, I try and flesh it out, and I'm like, no, that's really not a very good idea. So I will leave us with that. This has already been a long video considering what it's about. So if you're still here, you must like what you see, and that's really cool, and I appreciate you. I hope you will subscribe if you're not, leave a comment, like the video. There's a new feature that I noticed that you can hype the videos now. Hyping is not a paid thing. It's not like leaving a super thanks or anything like that. It just helps the algorithm. You just have to click on hype and it gives the video points, and that means the algorithm will favor it and pass it on to more people. So if you want to do that, that's awesome. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you next time.